snowman? Think Mariah Carey.
That's a good guess.
All I Want for Christmas Is You, because of all of her other famous Christmas songs. There you go. Round of applause for guessing a lot of wrong things.
Hey, let's poll the audience. What is the most popular ornament placed on top of a Christmas tree? I heard angel, I heard star. Who thinks angel? Nobody. You can yell, kids. Who thinks angel? It's not really a yell. Who thinks star? It's an angel. Yeah, there you go.
Wow. That surprises me every time. We've done this 3 services now, and I still think it's the wrong answer.
I still don't know the answer.
I don't understand it. Andy, this has been fun doing Christmas trivia with you, man.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it. You know what would bring this thing to a really great close? If in about 8 seconds, we could do an awesome New Year's Eve style Christmas Eve service countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
5, 4, 3,
2.
nature sing, and nature sing. All right, come on, sing joy. Joy to the world, whose Savior reigns, and then their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks hills and plains, we beat the sounding joy, we beat the sounding joy, we beat the sounding joy. No more that sins and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest the ground. He comes to make His blessings flow, for as the curse is found, for as the curse is found, for as the curse is found. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of His righteousness, and wonders of His love, and wonders of His love, and wonders of His love. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of His righteousness, wonders of His love, and wonders of His love, and wonders of His Every heart prepare Him room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing.
Merry Christmas, Kingsway. Grab a seat where you are. Hey, we are so excited that you guys have decided to join us on this Christmas Eve as we celebrate a newborn King, as we celebrate the light that came to shine light on the darkness. And we're so excited for what God's going to do here tonight. And we know that there might be a bunch of guests with us in the audience today. Maybe you came with family. Maybe you've checked us out once or twice. And we want to connect with you, and we want you to connect with us. So if you take a minute between now and the end of the service and fill out the red Connect card that you'll find on the seat back in front of you, you can take that to our Connect Hub, which is right out these doors, and we've got a special Christmas Eve gift for you that we'd love to give to you and just be able to chat with you and find out how we can best connect you to this place. One of the things we talk a lot about here at Kingsway is generosity. We believe in a God that has been so generous to us, that has poured out his blessings on us. And because of that generosity, we give a little bit back to him. And one way we do that each month here at Kingsway is through a ministry called the Dollar Club. The Dollar Club is where we all give one more dollar. One Sunday a month, we take all those dollars, collect them, put them together, and see what God can do when we all give together and the power behind that. So I want to introduce you to the December edition of the Dollar Club. Check out the screens right now.
He's a street kid, and he doesn't have anywhere to go. He has no hope of achieving great things in the future. You know, I'm sure people had all sort of thoughts about me that was nothing but negative.
When I heard your story back in August, when we were sitting in a coffee shop and you kind of shared a lot of your life story with me, when I heard it, I just knew that I wanted you to share it on camera, you know, so that other people could see and hear how God has worked through you.
So originally I was from Ethiopia. 3 years after I was born, my dad left our family, so it was just my mom taking care of my brother and myself for the following 3 years until she died because of a car accident. After she died, that was when my life and my younger brother's life kind of started to go downhill. For the next 3-4 years, I started working as a shepherd. So I was looking after a flock of sheep, goats, and cows for a number of years, and life was not easy. I started spending a lot of nights out in the street, and I remember one night I couldn't fall asleep, so I was thinking of my mother, and I was thinking of my life, like, God, why am I like this? Like I wish my mother was still alive. And I just remember just crying, like, why my life just from being good turned to be like a few years later, it's just the way it is.
What happened next?
So 2 years later, we heard the news that there was a new orphanage that was about to be opened in the city we lived in at the time, in Deborah. And this orphanage was a Christian orphanage. And I joined the orphanage, and that was really another milestone in my life. That's where life started to change for me. In the orphanage, I found Christ. In the orphanage, I joined a better school. In the orphanage, I got to live with people who genuinely love God and who genuinely lived for God. And therefore, they took care of us like their own.
So walk us through, how did it happen where you were then eventually adopted and came to the United States? Walk us through like that time in your life.
One night as we were praying, one of our, we'll call him Nani, she's like our mother, she said, Daniel, come on. I'm like, all right. So she took me to the kitchen. Hey, there is a family from America, you know, that's willing to adopt you guys now. Like, all right, I've always wanted to go to America. That's cool. I never wanted to lose sight of my faith, and I never wanted to trade the love I had for God, and I never want to trade Christ for comfort.
And so last summer, God laid something on your heart, and you took a journey. Walk us through kind of what led up to that, and then walk us through that time, that time that you spent traveling.
The best thing I could do for these people is, you know, to buy them textbooks, and not in English or another language, but in their own language. So in my preparation to go back to Ethiopia, I decided to raise a few $1,000s to buy textbook for the school and for the orphanage as well. So now we just got to the orphanage in Holeta, and this will be where I'll be distributing the books and other educational resources soon. So I'm about to go in, and so come follow me. God kind of used me to meet the needs that was really neat for them, because they have never expected anything like that would happen through me, because they remember me from my childhood. And just going back and doing these things, really, it was shocking for many people who knew me when I was young.
We can tell just from the last, moments that we've spent with you, hearing your story, that we wanted you to share, your story with Kingsway, with anyone who's watching this video. We know the impact that you've already had, but we want to help you have a further impact in the future. As you know, that Kingsway has this ministry called the Dollar Club. We ask everybody to give one more dollar than they give normally, and we put all that money together, and we see what God can do when we all give together. And you are the December Dollar Club recipient. And
Thank you so much. Wow.
when we hear your story, we know God's not done with you.
At the end of the day, that's what we're called to do, to spread the gospel to the end of the earth. And I feel like Kingsway is living that call. As a society, we look down on church, and church is a big deal. The church is, it's the people. It's not the building, the structure. What a privilege it is to be a part of this kind of community, All I can say is thank you. And thank you, Kingsway.
So cool to see how God is working in Daniel's life. And one of the things about generosity is often contagious, right? I mean, we're in a time where we're getting ready to celebrate Christmas, where we give gifts, and that's contagious. People, you give a gift to somebody and they feel the need to go and give to someone else. And that same thing happened with this story and Daniel's story. So when we went to Taylor and interviewed him on campus there, we were able to interact with some of the folks at Taylor, and none of them had really heard his story, which is a testament to the humility of Daniel, that he hadn't went really and talked about it. And so we told him about his story, and they agreed and were excited to match dollar for dollar the gift that you all gave, and that we've already been generous. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. So Daniel's already dreaming about what that looks like, about his next trip back to Ethiopia or wherever God has him next, and we're all a part of that, and that's the impact that our generosity makes. And I hope that you see in Daniel's story, that you see the story of hope. In that interview, he sat underneath a tree, and he was broken, and he was in a dark place, and he was looking up to the sky and crying out to God and saying, God, why did you take my mom from me? Why did you take my family from me? What does the future hold? And God had the story written for Daniel. He knew the plan. He knew the light that he was going to bring in Daniel's life. And the same is true for us. I don't know what pain or maybe heartache or maybe darkness you walked into this room with tonight, but God has that same story of hope and that same story of light for you. We've been reading out of Isaiah, and Isaiah 8, it talks about a nation that was in utter darkness. But then we go to Isaiah 9, and the story completely changes. And it says this. Verse 2 says, the people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. For to us a child is born. To us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
The stars are brightly shining. It is the night in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. The thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. For
And God, that is our prayer tonight as we sing to you, that our lives would be changed by a baby born in a manger, your love shown to us, and hope to the world, Lord. Speak to us through your word tonight. We pray this all in the powerful and precious name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. You may be seated.
What is it about the dark that's so terrifying anyway? I don't know about you, but when I was a kid a couple days ago, I was so afraid to go down into our basement. So like if my mom or dad or somebody sent me down there to grab something, you know, it's one of those basements where you had a light at the top of the stairs, but then the rest of the lights were down in the basement. And I would always be terrified. And I have no idea what it is I was scared of. Like, I don't know if I was afraid like to be a lion or a tiger or bear. All right, like 10 of you. Okay, anyway. Or maybe there was some monster hiding down there. I had an older sister, still do. I think maybe I was afraid she would jump out and scare the daylights out of me, right? How many of you kids love to jump out and scare people? We're gonna pray for you right now. Father, just kidding. I finally had to make a deal with my son that we wouldn't do that anymore because he would do it to me and I'd get him back, but I was always better at it and it'd scare him. And he's like, Dad, you gotta stop him. Like, you gotta stop. So we deal. Anyway, something about the dark is terrifying, isn't it? So the way the Bible uses dark is rarely in that context. Usually when the Bible talks about dark, it's usually talking about what we might call a picture, a metaphor, an idea, and it's usually trying to say something theological, something doctrinal about God or life or the world. So we've seen throughout Isaiah, if you've been here for the whole service, if you came in late, you might have missed this, but you've seen these passages in Isaiah that talk about darkness and darkness and darkness. And what exactly are they saying and why? Well, one guy who was really close to Jesus, one of Jesus' best friends, he was one of the disciples and later one of the apostles. His name is John. He wrote the book 1st, 2nd, 3rd John and also the Gospel of John. And he says this, God is light and in him is no darkness at all. Now what he means when he says that is he's basically saying light good, darkness bad. So light represents God, darkness represents evil. Now, what exactly is he saying there? Well, Paul, another guy who is a teacher on behalf of God, he wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, roughly. Paul says this in Ephesians 5. He says, have nothing to do with the evil deeds of darkness. Well, dark in and of itself isn't bad, right? It's just that moment in time in the day where parents finally, by God's grace, get to put the kids in bed and have a few hours without them. But apart from that, what the Bible is trying to do is use this analogy, this idea, this picture of in darkness, bad things happen. Now, where does that come from? Well, if you go all the way back to Genesis, in the very beginning, you have Adam and Eve in the garden. And basically, they have 2 rules for life. Rule number 1, love God, follow him and obey him. Rule number 2, don't eat of this one tree. Now, the moment Adam and Eve decided to disobey God and go ahead and eat from the tree, they immediately went into darkness. Now, they didn't go into darkness in the sense that like the sun went down and everything like that. No, they went and they hid in the bushes and they tried to hide from God and they tried to hide from each other. But see, what happened was that one, what we call sin, that one rebellion against God made them start hiding from each other. So when the Bible talks about darkness, it's referencing this idea of things being hidden, things being in the dark, where light isn't able to shine upon them. Do you get that? So now multiply that one action in the garden, multiply it by many actions over days, weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, millennia. Fast forward a few millennia until we get to where we are today, and what you have is a world filled with darkness. And when the Bible is talking about dark and light, what it's trying to explain to us is that we live in a world that is actually quite dark because it's in rebellion against God. It is openly set against him. And that's why those passages in Isaiah describe darkness in terms of gloom, in distress, in grief, in terror, in fear, because we live in a world that is in open rebellion against God, and we are running and hiding from him and from each other our actions that are not good or pleasing to him. Now we understand why darkness is so terrifying. But it's in that same darkness that John, who wrote that about God being light, that same John in his gospel, he approaches the gospels totally different. See, we have 4 gospel books, and those are the books that tell us the history of the story of Jesus. 2 of them go back and tell us about the birth story, the baby story of Christmas. John's book doesn't. He just kind of goes back even further and connects in John 1 to the creation story and then just gets right into it, right into the ministry of Jesus. So the closest he gets to the birth stories in John 1, he says, the light has shined in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. Okay, so I don't know if any of you, how many of you kids love to play hide and seek? All right, good, good. How many of you play with your parents? How many of your parents, help me out here, kids. How many of your parents are terrible at hide and seek? Some of you are like, what? What's up with that, yo? You just lost a present. I'm just kidding. So I am actually fantastic at hide and seek. It's one of the perks of being a hobbit. So when you're 5'7" and a half with shoes on, you can get into a lot of places. Like my 2 brothers-in-law are in their mid 6 feet range. They can't hide in places that I can hide. In fact, recently there's some work done on our house, and there's this closet now that upstairs that didn't exist, that exists now, and I can still, don't tell my wife because I've crushed a few things of hers and I still blame the kids, but I can fit, I'm just kidding, I don't really blame the kids. So I can fit in the closet. I can fit in the closet, and my kids haven't figured out that I'm in there yet. So I've safely hidden there for a long time. So at this time of the year, my kids love to play hide and seek, because what happens when you play hide and seek in the house a lot, all the places are known, right? There's no new place to hide. So what we do is at this time of the year, we wait till like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, after dinner, dad's home from work, send mom out, give her some mom time, and we play hide and seek, and the boys get flashlights, and the dad goes and hides. And this is great, because I get to take a nap while they try to find me. But what happens is they are afraid to go alone because the house seems scary now. But when they get together with their little flashlights, and we don't give them like big mag lights, they're just those little cheapy flashlights. When they come into a room and they start looking, and the light comes into a dark room, it penetrates the darkness and illuminates everything. And it just brightens everything up as they try to seek out Dad and find him. See, the light shines in the darkness, but the darkness can't overcome it. Light always beats dark. Good always overcomes evil. This is how Luke tells that same story. Luke chapter 2, verse 6. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a what? Very good, kids, very good. Because there was no guest room available for them. What Luke is starting to get to is this idea of when life seemed most dark, when life seemed most distressful, when life seemed most terrifying, God pierced the darkness by sending a bright light. But the bright light is a what? Very good, a baby. This is why back in Isaiah was written roughly 700 to 750 years before Jesus. This is why Isaiah says one day a prince of peace will come, a righteous judge, a mighty counselor, a ruler. And it's prophesying about when the Messiah comes, what he will look like. Peace will come in the darkness. Joy will come in the sorrow. Happiness will come in the pain. And it will show up in the midst of a baby who will not stay a baby. One day he'll become a man. And when he dies, he'll put to death, death. He'll kill death. How? When he raises from the dead. But right now, he's a little baby. But see, one thing is common with all babies. Well, there's a few things that are common with all babies. When babies come out, they get snuggled, and at some point they get wrapped up. That's just what we do with babies. So all babies are wrapped in cloth, right? So it's not that big of a deal that the baby's wrapped in a cloth. But what is different about this baby? He's not just wrapped in a cloth, he's what? Put in a... Don't miss this. The word manger is going to show up 3 times in the next few verses. Why does it keep showing up? Manger, manger, manger. So you can know what is different about this baby than any other baby born in Bethlehem that night. Let's take a look. Very next verse, verse 8. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were what? Terrified. It was dark. But the angel said to them, do not be afraid. I bring the good news that will cause great joy for all people. Today, in the town of David, that's Bethlehem, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. In other words, the prophesied one. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying, say it with me, in a manger. See, we've talked a lot about mangers in the past and how Jesus was born in such humble circumstances, laid inside basically it's a feeding trough for animals, but don't miss this, the manger was a sign. Just to take this analogy of hide and seek a little further, the manger is basically a flashlight. Jesus is the light of the world, but the manger is a flashlight. It's the thing holding the light, shining it forth. So I've been now a pastor for almost 20 years. I know it'll surprise some of you that I could be that old, but I started when I was 1. So, and the one thing I hear over and over and over again from teenagers, young adults, older adults, those who are struggling with God and trying to come to faith, the one thing I hear consistently is, why doesn't God just give me a sign? If Jesus truly is the Son of God, if he really is the Messiah, if he really is different than any other prophet or priest or king that's ever existed, why didn't he just show me? Why won't he just say it right now? And here's what I would say, he did. This is one of the many, many, many examples. But see, what's going to happen next is that one angel is suddenly joined by a whole host of angels to show up and start singing to God because they know that the baby who was just born is not like any other baby. This is a special baby. This is God come to earth to join us, to make sense of the human condition and the human struggle, to help us to understand that he is for us, he is with us, and he will be in us should we accept him. And so when the baby shows up, this is a powerful, powerful moment. Light piercing the darkness. So you know what they do? They sing, glory to God in the highest, peace on earth in whom God is favoring. It's powerful stuff. But look at what the shepherds do next. Verse 15. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about, to which you ought to insert parenthetically, duh. You don't just stand out in the field, take care of your animals, and all of a sudden an angel show up, start singing a song, go, hey, I know this one. And then just look at each other, wasn't that cool? I know you know what, let's put that one on our calendar for later. No, the angels go away and they're like, we should probably go see if we can find a baby. Well, how are we gonna go into a major city and find a baby? Any babies here? Yeah? How do we know if that baby is the right baby? Thank you very much. That's be like my kids, but they were the 1 o'clock. How do we know if this baby is the right baby? He's lying in a manger. It's a sign. It's a flashlight. It's to let you know if you find a baby lying in a manger, this is weird. Babies don't lie in animal feeding troughs unless the manger is a sign. Look at verse 16. So they hurried off, and they found Mary and Joseph, and the baby who was what? Are you getting it yet? Why is that relevant? Well, here's why it's relevant. Perhaps if I could summarize it all in this one little phrase, it'd be this. The manger is a sign that God is real, that he has come to rescue all who love him. You don't need another sign. Well, how do I know that there was really a baby born in a manger? Well, these very shepherds, the next few verses, if you want to look on your own later, what it tells us is they went and told everybody about what they experienced. Of course they sounded like crazy people. If somebody came to you tomorrow and said, an angel came to me and told me about this thing, you'd probably think it was crazy too, but there was a lot of shepherds. There was more than one. And when they showed up, it wasn't just any baby, but it was a baby lying in a manger. And you know what? You could confirm that. As you ask around town, hey guys, I met these shepherds, and these shepherds told me that some angels came to them. I know it sounds crazy, right? But they told me that they were told to go find a baby, and he was lying in a manger. Have you heard anything about that? And then somebody goes, my next door neighbor, Johnny, You're never gonna believe this. He had this young couple, Joseph and Mary, I think were their names, and they had a baby, and they were down with the animals because there was no room in the inn. And would you believe this? They actually put their baby inside a manger. And then you go, oh my goodness. This is real. Why was there a baby lying in a manger? Don't miss this, guys. When you gather tomorrow and you're shredding open your presents and you're opening and having fun and eating way too much food than you should ever eat, don't miss this. The reason there's a baby lying in a manger is because God wanted you to know that he loves you. I know so many families right now in this season dealing with a lot of junk. Death, despair, divorce, all kinds of pain and hurt and loneliness and anxiety and fear. Darkness will do that to you. But there is hope, and there is peace, and there is joy found in Jesus Christ. When you gather together tomorrow and have a blast with your family and friends and loved ones, but when you do not forget, hope came into the world and a little baby, and his name is Jesus Christ. The next thing the shepherds did is they went and told everybody about the light that has come, the light that was given to them. And as they did, the word went out to everybody. Something special God is about to do in the world. What we want to do is you just want to practice that right now. So you were given a candle on the way in. If you didn't get one, there's still some in the back. You can run and get one right now. We have people appointed with these little lighters all over the room to light your candles. I'm not sure how I got one, but I found one and took it. There's perks to being the lead pastor. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna share your light with people sitting around you. So as your candle is lit, you just lean to the person next to you and try to stay away from their hair and light their candle, and they'll turn around and light somebody else's candle. Now, if I can get your attention for just a couple more minutes while you're doing this. I know, especially with the little ones, this is hard. When my little kids were younger, like 2 and 3 and 4 years old, when we would play hide and seek, they didn't hide real well. Do you know what they would do? They would go hide under the bed or under the blanket or in the couch, in a door, behind a closet or whatever, and they would knock on the door. And they would finally, after like 30 seconds, they'd say, "Daddy, Daddy, I'm in here." And I would have to act like I didn't know where they were before I found them. Look, some of us have been in darkness for a really long time because, see, the older we get, the more and the better we learn to hide. And the danger in hiding is that we're going to stay trapped in the darkness and the light will never find us. My encouragement to you as you celebrate the fact that Jesus came into the world, my encouragement to you is don't stay hidden. Don't run from the very thing that wants to bring you the life that you've been looking for all along. Instead, let yourself be found. And when you do, celebrate that light has come. May God bless you and your families. It's an honor to be your pastor. Thank you for coming and worshiping with us tonight. God bless.
Silent night,
you can extinguish your candles. And we want to finish tonight by worshiping our God and our Savior who has come, a baby born in a manger, so that light could come into the darkness, into our darkness, so that we would have hope. Heaven came to earth, and we want to lift that up tonight and celebrate this glorious day. We'll sing it together. Children weep no more. Hope is on the horizon. Weary world, behold, you promised Messiah. Angels, let your song begin. Here comes heaven. Christ is born in Bethlehem. Here comes heaven. Sinners we no more. Love is broken in silence. So come, let us adore. The Savior is with us. Angels, let your song begin. Here comes heaven. Christ is born in Bethlehem. Here comes heaven. Here comes heaven. Now behold His glory, glory in the highest. All the earth rejoice, for Christ is born. Now behold His glory, glory in the highest. All the earth rejoice, for Christ is over all who mourn, breaks the dawn of salvation. Darkness reigns no more, for Jesus is greater. He is greater. Angels, let your song begin. Here comes heaven. Christ is born in
Church, we know where our hope comes from. We know where our light comes from. We just want you to go and be that light. It's been an awesome day here at Kingsway, seeing what God can do in us and through us. And we invite you back. Come back next Sunday. Come back in January as we look and how God is going to continue to change us, we dive into the Gospel of Luke and look at Jesus' ministry. We love you guys. We really do. And we want you to have a Merry Christmas. On your way out today, drop your candles in the buckets around the room. We love you. Have a great day.